What's going on, people? What's really good? It's your boy Marv, and this is the Nerds in the Hood. Yes, sir. I feel good. I feel great. My Knicks is in the conference finals. My Yankees are doing all right. Mets is doing okay. I'm not really a Mets fan, but they doing their thing. Liberty's defending their title this year. Everything's looking up New York sports. You know what I'm saying? Everything's looking up New York sports. But I wanted to do this video before I went and watched my Knicks game. I got really distracted, and then this video probably would never come out. But I got to get back on my review grind. It's been a little while. Last year I saw me, I was talking about Thunderbolts and Cartoon Network's Mount Rushmore, and this time I decided to watch me a good old Netflix show. So I need to talk about this. So as you know, Netflix has been doing a thing in the adaptation game. They've been doing a thing in the live action game, you know what I'm saying? So they've been making it happen, and they've been doing it in different ways, and animated adaptations or live action adaptations. And when it came to anime, they've actually been doing okay. I know, a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho wasn't bad, and One Piece was great, and Avatar was cool. But when I look at like the Hollywood-based adaptations, the Americanized versions, I know it's been hit or miss for Netflix. One Piece was really good, but Death Note was really bad, right? And even though Yu Yu Hakusho was heavily promoted, that wasn't really, to me, I don't think it was an Americanized version, but it probably was. But it felt more like it was a Japanese import. Same thing with Bleach and Full Metal Alchemist. But be that as it may, they've been on the, like a balancing scale. Hasn't been one side heavier than the other, really. So that brings us to our latest installment in the adaptation game for Netflix, which is a show called Bet. Now, if you never heard of Bet, it is based on the manga series or the Square Enix series Kakegurui, which I believe in Japanese is also called Bet too. So anyway, in America, we're just going to be like, let's get straightforward to what it's called. So basically, what this show is about a young woman who comes to a school that has a whole gambling culture, and they do a lot of betting, and it's almost like basically a casino school. And she basically comes there, and she is a compulsive gambler to the point that like she gets a thrill. Like she gets off on the thrill of taking the risk of a gamble, whether she wins or loses. She like goes crazy about it. And I'm not gonna lie, when I saw the anime, I was actually intrigued. It was actually a good show. I really thought it wasn't gonna be that good of a show, and it ended up being a really good show. So I know Netflix has acquired the rights, so it's one of their Netflix animes, which they got the first 2 seasons of Kakegurui and the spin-off Kakegurui Twin. I don't know if there's been any other new seasons since then. I looked on Netflix, I didn't see anything else. But what I do know is they decided to take their hand at this show and make it a live action. Now, Japan has already made their own live action version of Kakegurui, and in some ways it might be better only because the characters they pick do look a lot closer to their anime counterparts. But like I said, when these shows get Americanized, they're going to do what's right for the country and not for the adaptation. Always remember that, people. 9 times out of 10, when they casting and writing these stories and making these whole things, they're going to do what's right for the company and the way the story's written, and more for what the country wants to see than more of like, oh, let's stay truthful and faithful to the story. And we've seen that a lot of times. Dragon Ball Evolution. We've seen that a lot of times. So let's just be real about it. So anyway, what I can say is I've read reviews. A lot of people is like, the show is terrible. It's not faithful to the source and stuff like that. But I knew that already. This show it wasn't going to be faithful to the adaptation of the anime and the manga. It's based on it, but it's not like actually it. It's just based on it. So when something is based on it, they could be loosely based. And Netflix is good at loosely based stuff. So this is loosely based. Like, it's inspired by Kakegurui. They even mention Kakegurui at some point. Not the actual show's universe, but they mention Kakegurui in terms of like they have their own Kakegurui club towards the end. But what they do is, yeah, they changed the names. You know what I mean? Like we're not looking at like the twin sisters Rirari and Kirari. We're looking at Kira and Riri, for example, right? We're not looking at Ryoto. We're looking at Ryan. So a lot of the names were changed just for American audiences or non-Japanese audiences, if we really want to get real technical about it. But we know who we were basing this on, and it wasn't like some city in Europe. It was America, North America, whatever. But at the end of the day, this is what they were basing it on. So what was supposed to be just a regular show about a girl that goes to a school and is like a really good gambler and she's compulsive at it and she finds people that are similar to her and stuff of that nature ends up turning into, you guessed it, a teen drama. Now, it's not full teen drama. It's not full teen drama. I will admit to that. It doesn't go the full realm of like relationships and situationships and coming out the closet. It doesn't go into all of that stuff because that's, thankfully to God, they're past that. So they did a good job of that. They did acknowledge the fact that there was already people who were already going through that, and that was their lifestyle, and that's okay too. I don't got nothing against that. Let's get past that. Let's just go ahead and do the show. So I like that they kind of just went with that, and we didn't go through all of the high school stereotypes. They didn't go through the high school stereotypes of like who's the most popular and who's the loser. But what they did do that I didn't like was, if you go by the show, Kirari is more of a, I mean, she's a boss chick, but they made her more of a mean girlish type vibe in the live action show, and that's not who really she was. Like, this show was very mysterious. Kakegurui was a very mysterious show because you didn't really know a lot of people's motives and stuff like that, because it was supposed to be on that, because in gambling, everybody has a poker face. No matter what they playing, everybody has a poker face. From the dealer to the person playing, everybody has a poker face. So you never know the next move. And that's what made Kakegurui really cool, because you never knew it unless you had to hear that inner monologue that the anime character had. Whereas in the show, you knew all of their moves. You knew every one of their moves. They were planned out. It was one girl's quest for revenge. Her family died. And then at the end, you find out one of her family members ain't dead. So they went the soap opera route, which did kind of derail, because there was a point where I was really into it. I was sitting there every episode like, oh, because they were keeping it within the realm of what Kakegurui was about. The first several episodes was just gambling, and then get introduction into like why they're gambling. And I was like, okay, cool. And then at some point it turned into, I need to get revenge on my family, and this guy is not helping me get revenge on my family. He's secretly part of the reason I'm getting revenge on my family. Like, it was all of this like, ugh. Now the next season is just about like Yumiko, the main character, joining forces with Kirari to get revenge on like the whole school board, which is just like, how you gonna do that? Do gambling? Like, what? Like, there was a lot of different plot holes that it was just like, all right, but it still did a decent job in keeping it faithful. Now, granted, a lot of character changes was made. Like, for example, Ryoto, like I said, was named to Ryan. Ryan was a black kid who was from London, which not really a big deal. However, it's also just like, yeah, two different people now. And he had a real crush on Yumiko, and they kind of explored that more than they should have. And Mary, same thing with Mary. Mary in the show, black girl. Again, have nothing against that. However, she she just played a different part than the actual Mary you see. She was a little different, still kind of similar, but not too similar, not too on the nose. And Riri, aka Rirari. Rirari in the show has a mask, a full-on mask, right? And she is the twin sister of Kirari. A little fun fact for y'all. And she has a full-on mask, and you don't really see her face until a little later, but the mask just was so badass. Like, it was just like, this is what we wanted. This mysterious woman who is in reality a girl that looks like Kira. In the show, I can't be mad at this, but they didn't use a full-on mask. What they did use instead was a face mask. They used like a face mask, like she was trying to guard herself from COVID. And I think what I liked is that they showed her face, and she still kind of looked like Kira because they were supposed to be twin sisters. But what they focused on was more like, all right, if we put this face mask on, you can't see her like her mouth. You can just see her eyes. You can't see her nose and her mouth. You can just see her eyes. So they still kind of looked alike, but they didn't. You know what I mean? Like it was just weird to me. The face mask was weird. If you're gonna go face mask, at least do some Mortal Kombat type face mask. Don't make it seem like this is just some like bougie girl that just don't want to get COVID. You know what I mean? Like that's how you made it seem like this was a chick that just didn't want to get sick. But it was weird to me. And they made her more of this silent assassin type. Like she blew up, she murdered a family on this show, y'all. I ain't even gonna hold y'all. She unalived the whole family. A father and a daughter and the driver, who I'm sure wasn't even related to them. She blew up their car for the sake of a family. That's what you see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this, y'all? It went from gambling to like crime boss stuff. And I know some of that is like mentioned in Kakegurui, but not all of it. So the fact that they went their own route kind of throws it off. If there was two characters that I was like, okay, you really were more focused and kept it a little faithful to what the anime was. That was it was the character Dory and Runa. The character Dory and Runa. And I think they kept Runa's name in here, right? If I'm right, I was trying to look into that. But yeah, Runa was close enough to her character because she always wore like a hoodie and stuff. And she rode and had the lollipop and all that and played games. And Dory's character also, in the anime, she's Midori. But in the Netflix show, she's Dory. So Dory had the eye patch. She was spontaneous. She was crazy, just like in the show. They went a little overboard with it because they made her more like she was obsessed with one guy and how much she loved this guy. But I felt like it still kind of played the character a little well, and Runa too. But again, there's a lot of questions I had. For example, how Yumiko kept getting this poison that could just easily give somebody a heart attack was beyond me. I don't know what underground market she was going to or none of that stuff, but that was crazy to me. I kept wondering because she had that and the antidote light work. Unless I missed it, if y'all could tell me in the comments I missed it, I would gladly say, hey, I missed it. That was on me. 2, let's get this also out the way. For those of y'all who sat there and probably stopped watching the show because Mary and Ryan were house pets and it was kind of weird. So if you don't know what a house pet is and you don't watch the show yet, a house pet, a quick spoiler, is basically somebody who was delegated because they lost all of their money from gambling and now they basically have to work it off by being somebody's house pet, aka pretty much a slave. But it's not, the slave stuff like the whips and the chains and the light chain because they got to wear a chain, like a little chain around their neck that says that they're a house pet. But it's not like they got a full-on chain like back in slavery days, you know what I'm saying? But it was kind of crazy because the main two house pets was Ryan and Mary. Yumiko becomes a house pet at some point, but I probably said house slaves by accident. I'm sorry about that. But Yumiko becomes a house pet at a certain point. But Mary was a house pet for a good amount of time, and she worked her way out of it, and so did Ryan. So by becoming that house pet, people were probably online. People were definitely online. Was like, oh, this is crazy. This is bad. I don't know. They weren't going through the slave stuff like actual slaves. Yes, it is a little crazy on the coincidence of casting. I will say that. However, we also have to look at it just like they were going by the way the show was. House pets were involved in the actual show, so they were trying to be faithful to the show. They just unfortunately casted 2 black people whose characters ended up being house pets. But I'm not chalking that up to say they were being racist or anything like that. Just was bad coincidence. Bad coincidence. If there's one thing I can say, because I can go on and on about what the show is about and what happened in the show and all that, and there are some thoughts I had. Like, I will come back and watch season 2. But again, there was things I didn't need, like Ryan having a full-on dance scene to What Is Love? You know that theme from Night at the Roxbury that they always played? Yeah, he had a full-on dance sequence in a silhouette lighting, and I was just like, do we need that? We didn't need that. Especially, and we didn't need that because you had my man Ryan simped through the whole series, right? Mary was looking at him like, so what's up? And he was like, I wanna see what's over there with Yumiko. I mean, Mary was cute too. I don't know what's going on. But then there was also like Homie's father, forgot his name. Homie's father at the end was one of the bad guys, and before he passed, my man's tried to do like some pedophile stuff, which was weird. Really, really weird. Like they went into pedophile stuff for no reason. I said, yo, this is a show about gambling. How did we get into pedo action? What's going on? But this is Netflix. This is a show. They have shows like You and now a reality show called Sneaky Links. So anything is possible. Anyway, let me not mess up my mic here. If there's one thing that really upset me about this show, one thing was that Netflix decided to do some random cameo appearance at the end, towards the end. It was like the last episode. It was like the big climactic battle where they were trying to get themselves out of the hole that they got money-wise. And that really, really upset me. And that scene was, there was a mascot character named Seth the Beaver, right? And he had worked for Runa, and he had chased Ryan down for money. And then you didn't see him for a little while. He popped up here and there, and it was all good, right? And then at a certain point, one of the characters fights Seth the Beaver. They have a full-on fight, and it goes a little crazy, goes a little left for a little bit, and oh boy, I got to get through this. Let me finish this. It turns out that the Beaver gets unmasked. It was Michael, that was his name. Michael was fighting Seth the Beaver, and the Beaver gets unmasked, and you find out that the reason this Beaver is named Seth the Beaver is because under the mask is WWE superstar, former heavyweight champion of WWE, former just all that, Seth freaking Rollins. This man had nothing to do with the show. He had nothing to do with the gambling. He didn't even need to be in the show. And your man shows up. The minute he gets unmasked, the kid looks at him and he goes, "Who are you?" And then he goes, "Who am I?" And his music starts playing. He goes, "I'm Seth freaking Rollins." He hits the dude, and then he hits him with his finisher move, the curve stomp, and just leaves. And you never see him for the remainder of the season. Granted, there was only like 2 or 3 episodes left, but dude, that was the most unnecessary cameo I've ever seen. I'm not knocking Seth Rollins. Get the bag how you get the bag. But all I'm saying is that was such an unnecessary scene. Such an unnecessary cameo. It didn't need to happen. Earlier in the year, I had said that Ryan Clark's cameo in the final season of Karate Kid was quite possibly one of the most unnecessary cameos. Seth Rollins just eclipsed that. Ryan Clark, you are hereby forgiven, sir. Seth Rollins, you have the most unnecessary cameo in television for 2025. Not of the whole entire aura of television, but in 2025, you have one of the worst cameos I've ever seen in my life. But hey, get the bag how you get the bag, right? So all in all, I feel like when it comes to adaptations, this show wasn't as bad as Death Note, the movie, but it wasn't as great as One Piece. It's right in the middle. I wasn't mad at the show, genuinely. I just thought that it could have been better, and I feel like if they just kind of focused more on the show aspect of what Kakegurui is about, which is just a girl in school that's just gambling and gambling and gambling, I think that the show would have been a lot better. And if they just took their time with the episodes and just focused on gambling, and then on the final season, maybe she didn't face Kira just yet. Maybe it was more like, her versus maybe Kira's sister, or her versus Mary again, or somebody close to that. Maybe Dory. Maybe Dory was like a more vital piece of the team, or Runa, like somebody a little more down to below, and then the next season you got closer to Riri. Now the next season is just gonna go so left. It's not even gonna have much to do with the anime anymore. You spent your season finale making a final battle, a game of blackjack between Yumiko, the main character, and the big bad, who was supposed to be the big bad, and now she was just a cog in the wheel. So it was just like, what? And then they battled to the death because both of them It was just weird, ladies and gentlemen. Yumiko tried to poison Michael's dad, and she didn't get to. She put poison in his drink. It didn't work out. Kira finds out and was like, "Yo, I'm about to just basically snitch on you." And Yumiko was like, "Snitch on me about what? Oh, you got poison in a drink. Nah, I don't know what you're talking about. So drink it then." Shorty drinks the whole drink, and she said, "Yeah, fam. I'm gonna tell everybody anyway." And she was like, "A word." Kisses Kira, somehow backwashes the liquor into her mouth, which I'm just saying, if somebody was just gonna kiss me, I'm at least gonna like close my mouth. But anyway, backwashes it in her mouth. Now she got the poison in her system. Shorty starts crashing out. Then they say, "All right, I got the antidote. Play me for it." It's like, I get it. It's not like One Piece where they gotta have fist fights. They gotta have actual betting. But now we doing betting to the death. Like I said, they incorporated different things like that finger cutting machine game. I don't know the name of it. They did different things. I just felt like they was just all over the place with it and still trying to incorporate a teen drama with, modern teenage problems. Like, they was doing social media, cyberbullying, all that other stuff. It was just like, we didn't need that. Hopefully it was the next season. The next season really can't go the route that I wanted to go. But here we are. We can't even do the idols or the 100 Club or nothing like that. Like, we can't even do that. We can't even do the elections. None of the stuff that happened in the anime we probably can even do because they're so focused on just trying to make some type of teen drama. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this show was alright. The Seth Rollins cameo was this close to making me say this show ain't it, but it was alright. I stuck around. Yeah, it was alright. So anyway, check Nerds in the Hood out on all social media using the link tree in the description. See what we got going for us. And yeah, we'll be back more. You could bet that. Just like I'm about to bet on these Knicks, and I hope I don't lose any money and become somebody else's house pet. But anyway, I'll catch you guys later on another episode of Nerds in the Hood. It's your boy Marv signing out. Peace till then. Go Knicks.